GTX 960 in 2025. So if you want a game with 20 bucks for your GPU, it's gonna be tricky, okay? Unless you wanna play like some browser games or do some retro gaming or things like that. But what we have here today is the only card you can buy at the moment for around 20 bucks in the market. And now, first disclaimer is gonna be, if you want to buy it for 20 bucks, you're probably gonna need to buy it locally. So this is like in general on my channel when I recommend a used component. If you go on eBay or Craigslist, etc., and you buy it there, you're gonna pay more because you're paying the shipping and also the commission to the website. So especially if you're on a very tight budget, try to buy things in your local area so you can save some money on the actual delivery. That's how you get the best deals, local pickup. Of course, be careful when doing so, maybe meet in a public place, but it's the way to go. I got this for 20 bucks and now it looks brand new if you give it a look now, but that's because I may have washed it with the garden hose like we do here on the channel to most of our hardware. You can also see that because it has some water residues on the sides, but at least now it's clean. It was very dirty. And the reason why this is interesting, and this is also what you should look for if you want to buy something like this, is this still has the warranty seal on the back, which means nobody has ever repasted it. Now on one hand, that means that yes, this thing, if it was run a lot, it probably overheated. But it also means it probably hasn't run too much, because if not, it would have overheated. And it also means that nobody messed it up inside. So we can go ahead and actually repaste it, clean it up, and get it to run properly. Now, the good thing about GTX 900 series cards is they are very good overclockers if you know how to BIOS mod them. So we can get out of this probably 40% extra performance with modern thermal pastes and BIOS mod. So today I'm just trying to see if it can run Fortnite, Apex Legends, and Warzone. I don't think it's gonna be able to run Warzone, but I'm gonna try my best to make it run Warzone. Now, to make things realistic, I'm pairing this with an i7 from 3rd gen on X79, because this is Gen 3 PCIe. Now you could of course pair it with something better, and most of you guys will probably have maybe a Ryzen 1st gen chip. It's gonna be a good pairing also, but we are not gonna have bottlenecks in today's system either, so it's not gonna really matter if it makes sense. With that said, first off, we are opening it up, repasting it, seeing how it is, commenting on the design. This is an Asus model, very good model from the time. Also, if you're buying one, try to get a good custom. Try to get Asus, MSI, Gigabyte. Also very good at the time was Palit. So try to get one of those. Don't go for like a very cheap model, because it's old, it's cheap, it's low power. At least get a nice model, okay? So with that said, let's get started. Here we are. So first thing we notice is they didn't even take off the stickers over here. So we're going to do that just now. And now look at that, 10-year-old sticker, because this thing, it has quite some age, guys. It's Maxwell architecture, came out a while ago. Like, just think about the fact that the 1080 Ti came out in 2016. Now RTX 5000 is out. Okay, so now we can open it up. Good feeling about being the first person ever to actually open up this card. Quite like it. There we go. So first off, we see just no rust, which means I dried it up properly after washing it. It's probably the most important thing. And now we can get it open. Okay, paste is actually not too bad, but look at how simple this PCB is. I want to separate this quickly. Okay, we are not separating that because it's cooked. But check this out. So it's dry, but it's not too dry, which is nice. Now this one has 2 gigabytes of GDDR5 VRAM in it, which is definitely going to be one of the main issues running modern games, but for competitive titles, it should not be a problem. Also, it's pretty cool to see that at the time, memory cooling wasn't a problem, so memory is not actively cooled, and that's nice. And it's also nice to see that we have a nice heatsink close to our power delivery system, which is what we're gonna need if we really wanna push this card like I intend to in overclocking. Okay, so the paste was definitely dry. I actually take it back. It's gonna be a bit tricky to take it off, but we're gonna do it. It's also pretty cool to see just how small GPU dies were. Today they're massive. Anyways, for the repaste, we're using this Iceberg Thermal Fuse Ice Plus. This is very good thermal paste, even though I, kind of made a mess. But the company, guys, company. These guys, they make such good coolers, like prismatic blue coolers, but like it's very difficult to talk to them and you can never find them for the right price, which is why like I wish I could recommend them more, but it's actually tricky to do so lately. Enough about Iceberg Thermal. This is very, very good paste, and they have the applicator, which is this thing, which you can put directly on the GPU dies, and it's gonna just spread out the paste for you. So now to close it off, super easy. You don't know how much I like working on these older cards. They're so much simpler to do everything. I think even if it's your first GPU or one of the first ones, you're probably gonna be able to do all of this by yourself, the repaste and everything. It's what you have to do if you want to really have a cheap card, you know, just spend a little bit in maintenance, but you can also find one for sale when where the previous owner already has done it, of course, if you don't want to do it. But if you want the best deals, just need to find one where you have to repaste it. There we go, brand new. Time to boot it up. Look at how pretty it is. It's now working. It's time to go into Windows and start tweaking. So the other motherboard, the X79 one, for some reasons it stopped working. Maybe because it was broken to begin with and I fixed it. So we switched and we're now running on a i5 6400, which is still a good match for our card. So we are now just gonna run a few tests and come back with the baseline before we overclock it. So after repasting, we had to switch out test bench like 3 times actually, because the X79 motherboard just stopped working, but maybe it was the power supply. Anyways, we've had a few issues, so in the end we are testing with a 6th gen i5, 8 gigs of RAM, just because you don't really need 16, stock cooler and a SATA SSD. So pretty, let's say, balanced configuration for the 960, because I don't think you guys are gonna put it with a Ryzen 7 9800X3D, am I right? But anyways, after repasting, we went ahead and tested the temperatures, ran a few preliminary tests, and everything was running fine. So after washing and repasting the card, it was running pretty much like brand new, probably better than brand new, to be honest. We started overclocking. We got our baseline using Heaven Benchmark and Firestrike and MSI Afterburner. We found our sweet spot, which is around 1.5 gigahertz on the core, and what you're seeing on the screen for the memory, at which point it was time to extract the BIOS from the card via software, put it into our editor. Again, process is pretty similar to my 980 and GTX 780 video. It's always the same really. And we just put the newfound stability into there. Got a little bit of a voltage increase to around 1.3 volt, which in my experience is pretty safe voltage for GTX 900 cards. And flashed the new BIOS with NV Flash, and off we are with a modded card. The whole process took maybe 1 hour, so it's relatively simple to do. And there are good guides out there about how to do it. Would do a specific guide, I can do one if you guys want. It's always the same again, but it's very niche because on modern cars you can't do it anymore, unfortunately. So let me know if you want one and I can do it. But with that said, we then went ahead in Afterburner and overclocked the card a bit more to around 1.6 gigahertz is what we ended up with. The memory pretty much topped out at what we found out in the beginning. But the benefits of BIOS modding is you don't have to run Afterburner and the clock stays stable all the time. We basically don't even have a curve. It just stays there, maxed out all the time, which is very good, as you guys can imagine. Now, since we have a good custom, we can also push it a bit more power-wise, but it's not drawing much at all. So at this point, I went ahead and ran a variety of tests. And now, first I will show you the 2 most important ones, which I have recorded. Now, the first one is Apex Legends with an insanely good result. Actually, when I started, I couldn't believe how good it was running, because 1080p, everything on minimum, so competitive settings pretty much, we were getting over 100 FPS, but frame rate was not stable at all, and that's where you feel the age of the card, because yes, it's pushing high frames, but if the textures have to load with such a small VRAM buffer, you can just feel that the gameplay is not fluid. So to really play well, I think you have to play it around 70-80 FPS, so you may as well just lock it to 60 and enjoy the gameplay, which is what I've done. So 1080p, 60 FPS locked in Apex Legends, even though we're doing around 100, is how you want to play it. Since we can play Apex Legends on these settings, we can also play Fortnite, Rocket League, any kind of multiplayer competitive title, CSGO, we can play easily at around the 144 Hz range. Probably the 120 Hz range would be perfect, but definitely at over 60 FPS. I wanted to put this really to the test, so I ran Warzone, and now Warzone is really heavy, and if you remember my video about the GTX 780, which is slightly more powerful card than this, however, a card which has severe age limitations, because in Warzone it was just artifacting everywhere and it was unplayable. Well, with the 960 it's very playable. Now it's not running well, but we are doing 1080p native, all to the minimum. We are doing around 40 to 50 FPS, and it's actually pretty playable. If you lock it to 30 and you play with a joystick, you're gonna have a console-like experience, which is not too bad. But what I would recommend you guys do if you wanna play it is you actually use the resolution reduction option in Warzone, play at maybe 60% resolution, and there I could get close to 60 FPS in gaming. So if you're playing with a controller especially, it's gonna be a pretty smooth experience and allows you to play Warzone with €20 GPU, which means you can probably put a PC together for $100 and play Warzone, which is interesting. And that draws me to my conclusions, because with this card, it's going to be unplayable to play any kind of recent single-player titles, like Cyberpunk is unplayable, and genuinely any kind of newly released single-player titles are going to be completely unplayable at 1080p. You can play them if you lower the resolution, but then they're going to be a lot less enjoyable. So this is not the card for it. However, for the price, I think it's a good, really entry-level card, and also, since it only has a 6-pin power-wise, it's also a very good card for converting maybe an office PC into an entry-level gaming PC, where you keep the power supply you have, you get maybe a SATA to PCIe adapter to power the card, slot the 960 in, it's a small card, it's gonna fit everywhere, and you can then convert your home PC, office PC into a gaming one, and start playing a little bit and still enjoy yourself. So, let me know down below what you guys think about this card, if you want me to take a look at more older cards and tell you what I think. And if you're still rocking a 960, also drop a comment. And if you have a specific card you'd like me to take a look at, also from AMD, let me know and I'll gladly go ahead and get one and try to see if it's worth it. And again, if you watched the video this far, maybe drop a like and subscribe for more. And I hope to see you guys again in another video. Bye bye.